time and taking the time to meet with us today and hear what we've got to say. Hopefully it'll be something you can take away and be a beneficial one. And yeah, as always, great to see some familiar faces and great to see potentially some new people as well. So yeah, hopefully something of value today, and give you some info that you can take away and maybe put into a website project potentially. So yeah, just a quick agenda slide, which is obviously what we're going through today. We'll get some introductions done quite quickly, very quick intro on myself and on Prodo. But yeah, if everyone wouldn't mind staying muted just to get going, just so everyone can so there's no background noise and we can hear what's going on. But if you want to pop any questions or any comments or anything into the chat pane, feel free to do so. And I'm sure Meg, my colleague on today, will be dropping a few things in there as well in terms of resources and handy things for you to have a read of. So look out for those. Yeah, we want to go through Umbraco CMS today. What it is, what we use it for, and why we choose to use it. And we thought who better to join us on this one than our in-house Umbraco wizard, Kris, who's our engineering manager. So I'll introduce Kris shortly. But yeah, we're going to show you a sort of a brief sort of live demo of one of our websites we've developed for the housing space as well, just to show you how easy and nice it is to use as well, because I'm sure a few of you are interested in seeing that. And then yeah, explore a couple of use cases towards the end and what we can particularly offer around this. And then, yeah, some Q&As as well. So if you've got any questions for me, for Kris, for anyone who's on the call today, just feel free and we'll do our best to answer them. Yeah, just a very quick one. Usually start with this on the Housing Hive. So very quick intro from me. My name is Jacob. I'm a digital strategist at Prodo, which basically means my job to explore digital transformation opportunities with organizations, align Prodo solutions to those organizations' pain points, and help improve in terms of customer experience, in terms of operational efficiencies with the use of digital solutions. So yeah, so that's me. There's a couple of Prodo people on with me today. So we've obviously got Kris, we've got Meg, Hugh, and I think a few others. I can't see everyone's faces, but if everyone's got the camera on, just give us a quick wave. And yeah, of course, we're host of the Housing Hive, so we set this up. We were just saying at the start, coming to 12 months ago now. So originally to kind of connect people in the housing sector, our contacts, clients and friends of the sector, just to kind of discuss ways of sort of navigating through the pandemic really and using digital to help with that. But yeah, since then we've kind of created this almost sort of community, which has been great. We've had guest speakers from inside the sector and outside, as well as sort of leading talks that we are doing today from our perspective. But yeah, as an agency, we've been around since '98. We're based in the UK, 50 strong, and specialise in the housing sector, and we have done so for nearly 20 years now. Obviously, our sort of product offerings has changed significantly since 1998. But yeah, we like to think we use digital solutions to help solve problems in the sector, which we'll sort of be expanding upon later. We also published a book on channel shift in housing, which is that little image you can see on there, which is, we're more than happy to send you out a free copy if you'd like to have a read of that one. I think we're due to send you one. Well, actually, Barbara, I picked up your message the other day. You were interested in reading one, so we'll get one of those out to you soon. But yeah, that's basically some thoughts from Pro's perspective on sort of digital transformation projects in terms of how we see those best running, and we've got some results from surveys in there from over 250 associations and contributors. So yeah, it's a good read if you're interested. And yeah, we're also the minds behind Franklin, which is our self-service portal product, which is subscription based, multiple tiers, and it's kind of the only one of its kind in the sector. So if anyone wants to sort of explore or understand a bit more about that, just let me know. But yeah, moment 2 seconds, I've kind of gone off the screen. There we go. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly introduce Kris really and give you a couple of, well, maybe half a minute or so, Kris, on just to intro to yourself, who you are and what you do, if that's okay, please.
Yeah, sure. My name's obviously Kris Slattery. I'm the engineering manager from Prodo. I've been in Prodo for just over 4 years now. So I'm in charge of everything to do with like programming and technologies, and I run a team. 10 or 12 developers, and we basically build all of our product offerings, our websites, all the web applications. We recently branched out, well, this past year we branched out into some other technologies as well, to allow us to bridge more gaps with it being a much more socially restricted kind of environment for everyone these days. So yeah, so also in charge of like the kind of mobile offerings, so the, you know, your Android and iOS app developments, And recently the AI stuff, which is something we've gone quite heavily into, which is exciting for me. And it's exciting for my team as well, because we're doing things that we know haven't been done in the sector before with AI, which is really good. So yeah, that's me really.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've kind of already been through my intro, so I won't go through that again. But yeah, next slide. So me and Kris will basically be running through a few slides for you today around the Umbraco CMS specifically, and then a quick demo. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, Kris was definitely the best person to answer them rather than myself from a technical perspective. So feel free to put them over. Yeah, today's topic then, which is Umbraco CMS. So the last few weeks we've kind of focused on a little bit of a series almost. So we kind of looked initially on how to build perfect website brief, tips on how to select the right partner. So we thought today it'd be useful to expand upon the particular technology that we choose to use for website projects and for other web application projects at Prodo. So as I mentioned, we've been developing websites for over 20 years. For the housing sector for that period as well, but also outside of space as well. And during that time, we've utilised various CMS platforms, but Umbraco is the one we've specialised in and used most, had most success with. We've been a long-standing gold partner agency for a number of years as well, with a fully certified Umbraco certified team, which sits under Kris. And so yeah, I'd like to think we'd be able to sort of advise you in this area. But yeah, obviously there's many sort of CMS platforms out there, from open source like Umbraco to proprietary systems to SaaS-based ones as well. Some of them great for really small basic sites like the likes of sort of Wix and Squarespace, those sorts of things. Some great for e-commerce like Magento and those sorts of platforms, and some great to gain access to a whole host of thousands of sort of plugins and things, and for blogging purposes and what have you, like WordPress. So I think it's really important to sort of think about the purpose of the website and the technology that you need. And based on the space that we operate in, the organizations we work with, is basically why we chose Umbraco to specialize in, really, which we'll expand upon shortly. But the main sort of areas and sort of reasons for that is scalability, flexibility, ease of use, and the sort of security and almost quality, really, of the output of what we can do with it. So yeah, like I said, there's many out there, and Meg found this stat for us, which is there's sort of estimated thousands of CMS platforms out there. So sort of understanding the technology in detail as to what you're going to be managing your website with is obviously really important, and picking the right one can mean success or obviously failure, and what the sort of project is sort of there to do. Yeah, just to get going, just some sort of key statistics really. So let's pop these in to kind of set the tone for what we're about to talk about. So 33% of marketing budgets go towards technology, and 28% of that budget is sort of going towards infrastructure such as CMS platforms. And everyone's sort of aware that WordPress powers a huge amount of websites out there. Approximately sort of between 30 and 40% of the web is powered by WordPress, but also 70% of those are actually vulnerable to sort of hacker attacks, and based on how sort of WordPress is set up, being fully open source and anyone can sort of edit things and release plugins and things. That's one of the reasons why we choose against that and choose Umbraco. So that's just a couple of sort of stats to sort of lead us into this, I suppose. But yeah, with there being so many platforms out there, I suppose the question is, why have we as a web development agency and digital transformation partner agency chose Umbraco, really? So there's some key points on this slide. I thought I'd let you talk through these ones, Kris. We've popped a few key ones on there. Would you mind just talking through these ones and maybe expanding on a couple of points if that's okay?
Yeah, so there's probably one that isn't on there that we should probably start with. I mean, Umbraco was released, I think, around 2000, the year 2000. So it's been around for 2 decades now. So it's definitely a tried and tested CMS technology, which is going through a proprietary company as well. So yeah, it is built upon Microsoft technology, so the .NET framework and C#. So it's really robust infrastructure from its core, which is really good. It's used in a lot of like kind of instances around the world. So there's over 500,000 installs of this product, and they don't just do websites. They can do all kinds of things like provide intranets for companies. They can power the content on mobile applications, that kind of stuff. They can help manage and control. An Umbraco instance can help manage and control like multiple internal systems, legacy systems that you may want to abstract away because they're integral to the business, but you want to make the interface much easier to use for you, to gain efficiency. So yeah, it is used quite widely. It is an open source technology, much like WordPress is. It was made open source 4 years after its release, and there was a reason for that, and that was to get community input on the code base to make sure that it wasn't just a team of, at the time it was only a handful of developers building this core, but to get, people, enthusiasts or the programmers to throw in their own content and their own, vet what they, what the core team had written, and constantly improve it and go through that cycle of, rinse, repeat, improve, and then just keep going until, we're getting a better and better product as the years kind of go on.
Yeah.
The key difference with Umbraco is that it does have a proprietary team as well. So although it is open source, you can download the core of it and play around, add features. Everything that goes back into Umbraco is vetted by the core team. So there is like kind of a programmers community, and the internal programmers read through all the suggestions and all of the bits of code that have been done, and it's all reviewed and then tested prior to being put in an official release. So we kind of get this hybrid of like, best of both worlds approach, where we've got the open source community and resource getting this technology to grow it, much quicker. But we also have the proprietary internal team to make sure that that's quality work that's going out. So as a result, it's a really secure platform. And as another kind of happy accident of that is it's got a really tight release program as well. So when or if issues are located, it's easy for them to release a patch and update it and deploy it to everyone. And it's really open and easy to kind of maintain from that perspective. So that makes it a really obvious choice for Prodo to use and to power like all of our kind of internal builds. Scalability is a massive one as well. So this thing, you can, because it's built on Microsoft technology, so we've got like a SQL database powering the CMS part of it, and then this .NET framework kind of C# code on top, which builds this really robust system. You can basically scale this infinitely as long as you can throw resources at the database and at the servers which power it. It will just keep going. So it meets enterprise level needs as well as really small, 10, 20 man operations kind of needs as well. So it's got that huge scalability. So as those companies grow internally, we can scale up and grow and, add to that technology. So it's a good investment in the sense that they don't have to kind of like constantly, remove an entire system and then replace that with something completely different because it's of a it meets a higher requirement for them. And then the final one, the beauty of it, it's free. And this is great. I mean, for all the developers in my team as well, they've all started and come from a place where they've all downloaded that. I know it's really sad, but in their own time and played around it and learned technology and learn how to program within it because it is a framework, so they can grow that themselves. And that's come from just an inquisitive, passionate kind of place, and that doesn't necessarily happen with technologies that are paid for because they're much harder for a student or an enthusiast to get into. So that free thing's great for companies who buy into the technology, and it's great for the people who build in that technology as well because it's easy for them to get into it and take up basically. So there's a lot of good things with it.
Great stuff, thanks, mate. So yeah, do you want to pop a few sort of key features or kind of almost functions really into this as well? So, and we've broken this down into three main areas. So, from a website manager's perspective, a content creator's perspective, and also designers and sort of developers as well. So, we've used this for, as Kris says, for sort of multiple use cases in the past, and you can see a few listed there. So multiple site management is basically, Umbraco allows you to spin up multiple websites from the same sort of CMS instance, which we've done for many sort of housing associations in the past, should those websites be for similar purpose. So it allows you to get some economies of scale and some efficiencies in there as well, which is great. We've integrated Umbraco with, all of the key systems that you can probably think of from a housing sector's perspective. I don't think we've come across and we've not managed to do that with just yet. So it integrates with systems really well. Cross-platform is a great point, and also from a management perspective, role-based permissions is a nice bit of feedback we tend to hear about Umbraco. So based upon teams with multiple sort of members managing websites, you can create some role-based sort of access levels in Umbraco. So certain people can only access, if you have people looking after news articles or updating certain pieces of content, you can allow them to do that without worrying about, maybe some business critical integrations or some other areas being affected. But yeah, from a content creation perspective, Umbraco 8, which is the latest version which we're using at the moment, has multilingual functionality out of the box, and we're exploring that with a couple of Welsh associations at the moment, so they can, without having to rely on Google Translate, which is very sort of vague and often quite inaccurate, and obviously inaccurate translation is going to make for not a very engaging experience for those non-English speakers. It allows you to manage multiple sets of content in a multilingual fashion within the same place really quickly and easily. The CMS itself is fully responsive, so if you want to sort of make content changes on the go, on your phone, your tablet, that's doable as well. But a really key one that I'll show you shortly on the demo is the modular experience in the CMS. So rather than being sort of restricted to certain fields and certain areas that you can populate or edit on a particular template, what we can do with it and what we do with each of our web builds is basically build a bunch of optimized modules which we know will work, and then you can pick and choose those modules and sort of click and drag them into any order you want to display that content to allow you to create much more creative pages, present the content in more creative ways, and generally a lot more flexible for not only the CMS manager who's looking after the content, but for the user on the front end as well. And the right hand side, there's a few points down there. I thought you might want to touch upon, Kris, around the API and the architecture and things potentially.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, we can use Umbraco for not just powering the website and allowing people to manage content on that website, but at its core, it's got a really powerful API, which is an interface to allow us to read and write data from Umbraco's core nice and easily. So we can use that. We can essentially use the Umbraco CMS, the bit that you log into, which Jake will demo in a moment. We can use that to power not just a website, but we can use it to power mobile applications as well, Android, iOS mobile applications. We can use it to do all manner of things, manage data in all kinds of creative ways. It literally is an open book for us. So definitely with my team, we tend to be given a lot of problems that are very specific to an organization, and then it's our job to kind of come up with a solution to those problems. And the Umbraco API allows us to do kind of a lot of things and make things nice and manageable from one place. Design freedom. I mean, that's a given, really. I mean, our builds, they're not kind of an off-the-shelf Wix-driven website. We do have a full UX and design department which engage with our customers, and when those ideas come to life, we build those into Umbraco. So it will take and then from that we'll generate all those modules that Jake just mentioned about there. So the design can be baked in to Umbraco as well. So another couple of nice little touches, the image and content caching. I'm sure everyone's had the issue with, there's probably a lot of different CMSs, getting used across multiple organizations. You may even have a custom built one. That's not uncommon either, where you may have a system that was built 15 years ago that was completely built from the ground up, and it's served its purpose, but it's got tons of problems already, that I've been there from the start, really. Managing images is a big part of that, how to resize an image, how that affects the page load speed, because, people photographs with their, snazzy iPhone moments, the size of the image that come from them are not web friendly, they're huge because they're such high quality images, so what the Umbraco core allows you to do is, and this ties in with the design a little bit as well, we get like a design map for those images. So a full list of the height and width of all the possible image shapes and types that are part of your design. And then Umbraco allows you to basically upload that image, and it handles the reduction of the size of the image so it's friendly for load and speed times, and also then resizes and reshapes it accordingly and fits into all of those areas on the design automatically. So that's amazing, for content editors. Long gone are the days where you've got to open up the image in like Photoshop, or you may have to use Microsoft Paint or some other free paint tool in which to resize or reshape the image, and then you may find that you've got loads of different crops and shapes of the same image, and that they're kind of all over the place in the back end kind of thing. So managing that can become a bit of a pain. With this, it's literally upload the biggest image size you've got. So the biggest, the biggest possible shape of image that you've got in the design, upload it once, and then Umbraco resizes and recalculates it all for you. And we program that into it. So it's a really nice tool. It reduces such a headache for content editors in the long run. And the final point's more of an open thing. I think I've touched upon this quite a bit. The open and flexible architecture. We have no limits with what we can do with Umbraco. If you need to have very custom parts, let's say you're I don't know, got a kitchen showroom and you need something to help design a kitchen, we can flexibly build stuff to help you manage the content for that kitchen designer tool that we build into your website. Now, it's not something that would come directly with Umbraco in its core, but the framework is built in such a way that we can extend it and build on top of it into anything that we need. So the sky is literally the limit, with what we can develop on top of Umbraco. So the flexibility is like pretty much second to none in my opinion. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks, mate. And then before we jump into them, I just wanted to basically summarize really, because obviously we could expand on in this, and Kris and I could talk to you about this for a long time, but we've only got so much of your time today. So just thought I'd quickly sort of summarize at this point as to into a couple of points really why we choose this over other platforms, because obviously we've got a team of experts in house, and the guys could use a number of different platforms for our partners. So I suppose quite quickly, from our perspective, based on the type of organizations we work with, they either need to, or both, need to make sure that their users and their data are safe and secure, or they need to have complex integrations with third-party systems created or bespoke pieces of development. And those 2 points on the screen there basically kind of feed into that kind of that summary I've mentioned there. So as Kris said at the very, very start, and mentioned since as well, it's open source. So as you were saying then, it gives us great flexibility as to what we can do with it. But that proprietary core between Umbraco releasing security patches and downloading that sort of that vetted core, if you like, gives that sort of central security, if you like, when compared with others which are fully open source, and plugins may become not maintained very well, or potentially become areas for exploitation, even for sort of web hacking and things. Can't remember words out today. But yeah, the scalability of it is something that we really love. So we've used this for very, very small scale sort of brochure websites, for property advert sites, for intranets with deep integrations, and it even powers our the Franklin portal, which I mentioned at the start. It powers that too. So it's something that we can scale and use for. So far, we've not really come across a use case that we've not been able to use this system for. So any sort of web requirements that you have, it's pretty likely that we can use a system for it, and it's going to be secure. Anything to add on to that, Kris, quickly before I move on to showing the CMS?
Probably share one of our most extreme cases of use, just a bit of a war story, really, I suppose. Yeah, for a particular client, we had to integrate with a system that was built in the 1980s, and this was like integral to it was a really large organization, and this system was baked into their workflows. Everyone relied on this particular system that was hosted in Hong Kong, and surfaced all the data on a worldwide basis. But nobody really knew how it worked anymore. I mean, outside of more of those, the programmers are probably long retired. And there was very little documentation, because that kind of thing didn't happen back in the 80s very well, especially with programming and computer science, that kind of stuff. So we went through a bit of consultancy with them to help understand and look at that system and understand where we could get data in and out of it. And then we used Umbraco to then sit on top of it and give them a nice user-friendly interface to help manage that older system. So without having to lift and shift that integral piece out of their organization, because replacing it would have been probably out of the question, a very big job indeed. We kind of just, used Umbraco to abstract that away from the organization. So all the problems that they had, we dealt with them and, put like little program loopholes in there to make sure they were abstracted away from the organization at large, and then wired all that through Umbraco. So that was kind of a really satisfying use of like a new technology to kind of like manage some older legacy software. So yeah,
it's a good one. It's a good example. Okay, so I know everyone's probably quite keen to see the CMS, so I will do that now. So has everyone seen the Thrive website okay there? Yeah, okay, great. So I'm not sure if anyone from Thrive's on the call today, but Thrive are one of our housing partners. We've worked with them for a while now. So yeah, if someone is on the call, you're going to get a nice demo of your own website today. But it's a nice one to demo because it's a great sort of Umbraco 8 example. It's nice and sort of simply laid out in the CMS for me to show you. So this is basically the website. I'll be showing you the back end of the staging environment. You can see at the top. So there's no worries about me making any live changes and making some strange things for their sort of live users. But yeah, it'll demonstrate nicely that sort of modular experience of the CMS and show you the sort of the interface and the UI as to how intuitive it is as well. So I'll just quickly jump into here and log into Thrive's Umbraco 8 instance. And Umbraco is laid out in this sort of way in version 8. So there's this ribbon across the top here, very, very high level sort of categories. And then once you've sort of clicked into each of these, you can see we've highlighted the content tree here. We can drill down into here into a bit more detail. There's a test page from me from the other day that I've not deleted. So yeah, this is the content tree. This is basically what sort of powers the navigation. And you can see child pages underneath. But yeah, we can drill into here. And obviously, once you've highlighted a particular page on the left-hand side, you're seeing most of the sort of real estate on the page is actually the content editing experience and where you can sort of edit the modules and the content that I just showed you on the front end there. But what I wanted to show you really was just how you go in and you can create and sort of edit a page really, really easily. So I simply just go into this content tree on the left-hand side here and click the 3 dots, and I've got an option here to select an item from underneath the home node, as Kris and the developers would call it. I'm going to select a standard content template, and for Thrive we've got a blank one. We've got a meet the board template, so we've developed that for those guys. But yeah, all I need to do here is basically go into here, pop a title in there, and then rather than, as I was saying before, being really, really restrictive as to what you can do here, obviously there is sort of fields and sort of options and things here for you to fill in, depending if you want to sort of embed script for live chat or for Hotjar or for whatever else, you can do that. But in terms of actually presenting the content that you want to show, these are the modules that I was mentioning before. So these are modules which we've developed over the years of building, numerous hundreds and hundreds of housing websites, and we've optimized these so we know that they work really, really well. And we've amended these and sort of adjusted them to Thrive's use case, so they can log into Umbraco with a use case of a particular content page they want to create. They can go in here and pick from a range of modules here. So if I just quickly show a couple of examples, so we can go in here and pick rich text editor is the one that we're all sort of used to seeing. The WYSIWYG editors, what you see is what you get. And basically just pop in some text. So this is some summary text here. We're also preloading some formatting as well. So if you wanted to put in some headings or some CTAs, different sort of paragraph breaks, we always make sure that that is on brand and sort of we're using the sort of brand fonts, using the brand colors. Specific to obviously who we're working with, and then all the things that everyone's sort of used to seeing in CMS. So you can embed images, you can put tables and links in there. But yeah, from there, rather than having to go through specific templates for specific use cases, you can basically pick and choose whatever you want to from this point on. Then really, so if you want to potentially put a bit of summary in, maybe embed a form to ask somebody to submit some sort of information. This is then loading a form in from Umbraco Forms here, which we've set up. So I can pop in the contact form, which I've already created and reference that form in there. So we've got some summary text, got a contact form. Maybe at this point want to potentially put in some sort of imagery, if I can find the image gallery. So many modules in here for Thrive. Yeah, so this is, at this point, rather than loading the forms or just a particular piece of content for you to type in, this is now referencing that media area, which Kris mentioned before. So Thrive will have uploaded all of their media as to sort of high res as possible. They can then go in here and reference that media folder for their content pages, and then go in here and pick a number of images for their particular for their image gallery. So I can go in here and pick a couple of houses potentially. If I just select those and submit, and then we have really, really quickly in seconds, like some text, a form, and an image gallery completely bespoke to a particular page and a particular use case. And then from that point, obviously, as I mentioned before, there's a whole load of other sort of options and things you can do underneath. If you want like a strict summary at the top, you can do that. This is where you pop the SSL and a few sort of SEO controls and OGP and things. But I can save that page now. And before publishing that live to the internet where your users will see it, your customers will be able to interact with it, actually preview that and make sure it looks how we want it to look before we do that. So obviously it's quite bland what I've done there. I've just put put a sentence in there, put a form and quite a simple sort of image gallery. So you can see how sort of those two images that we selected there. But the really great sort of feature of Umbraco Preview, especially in Umbraco 8, which is much better than the previous one, is the responsive preview function. So we can pop in here. Obviously, this is sort of tailored to the browser sort of size I'm looking at the moment, but I can see what that might look like on tablet. And it's fully functional as well, so you can see how the menu might overlay in that area. You can go in here and see what that might look like on your smartphone as well. And then this might prompt you to go back into the CMS. You know, if it doesn't look great on mobile, if you want to make some changes, make those changes, save them again, and move back into this preview mode so you can really sort of tailor it and make sure that before it goes live for anyone to see, you can make sure that it's optimized and looks great. So that's a really nice feature in terms of the preview function. And then the role-based permissions that I mentioned before can come into this area as well. So rather than for a particular user, if you want them to submit their content through to you as the manager for review, you can do that. So rather than save and publish, they'd have save and send for approval, for example, and then you will receive a notification. You have this and this article from so-and-so to go and review before it can be published live, and you can do that. So you have a bit more control over what's going on there in terms of flexibility from the modules, in terms of the preview mode across different devices, and in terms of the, who's able to do what as well. So that's basically how easy and sort of flexible and intuitive to build a page in Umbraco 8. The multilingual functionality, basically have a couple of different variants in here to manage the different languages all within the same area. But yeah, I thought I'd just also quickly touch upon the media section as well. So if we pick a nice large image with a few different potential focal points, so maybe this one here, for example, we'll preload in, well, Kris's team, we'll preload in some dimensions for different images for different areas here. So it could be like it could be a news image, it could be a banner on the home page potentially. And then this particular image, we can move the focal point and you can see it sort of adjust here. Maybe not a great example because you can't see it change very much, but if, for example, there's a few people on the page maybe and you were cropping somebody's head off and you want to focus on them or focus on a particular area of the image, you can do that and make sure that no one's sort of being cropped out, which is really quick and easy. Again, it's a case of changing that focal image, saving it, and then wherever that particular image is referenced on your content pages throughout the website, it will be adjusted there and then for you. So like Kris was saying, without you having to go into Photoshop, making changes, uploading it, seeing how that looks, not quite right, go back out again, make some changes, go back in. It's all sort of done for you, which is, yeah, saves a whole lot of time and is really flexible. So yeah, very quick overview of Umbraco 8. If anyone wants to see any more, then you know, feel free to get in touch and I can take you through a full demo. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to pop them over. If not, we can just quickly jump in before the end in terms of some questions we do get asked, a couple of use cases that we've got at the moment for Umbraco. Has anyone got anything just at the moment?
Is it running out of time? That was a staging site. It wasn't the actual Thrive Live site.
It was, yeah.
So just so in case they horrified, people were like, "Oh, are you changing the site content?" That was a mirror of the live site entirely. So there was no live sites affected in that demonstration.
So there's going to be no Jacob's test page on the front end for Thrive users. Anyone getting confused as to who Jacob is? But yeah, at this point, I want to quickly jump into a few questions and then just very briefly go through a bit of an offering from Prodo, really. So a few questions which I've noted down here, which we tend to get asked, and a few people submitted through the contact form as well when registering for this today is it genuinely free in terms of licensing? And it is. So the only thing to think about, I suppose, from Umbraco itself would be you would need a website on this platform to be hosted on a suitable server, which someone like Prodo could sort for you. I suppose the alternative there, Kris, would be Umbraco Cloud, which is a slightly different sort of model.
Yeah, the experience is identical. The main difference is it's all in the cloud. That's a little bit abstract to kind of like say, but it means that the installation process and it is different.
Yeah.
Benefits of that though are the deployment pipeline for content is based on there, but that's something that with our server architecture for installations of Umbraco we mirrored. But yeah, it is a great offering, and again, it's got its use case scenarios.
Yeah. And then we always tend to, when I'm speaking to people about this and about integrations and things, I always get asked, have you integrated with my housing management system or our housing management system before with Umbraco? And the answer is probably yes. We've written integrations with Capita Open Housing, with Northgate, with Civicus CX, Airing QL, the MIS system, or all the sort of the main ones, together with CRMs that are sort of more widely used outside of the sector, like Salesforce and HubSpot, which is sort of we're working with a few housing associations with at the moment. But the answer to that question is usually yes. How long does it take to get an Umbraco site up and running? And that totally depends on the requirements, really. We can get something up and running really, really quickly using our sort of optimized base of modules, which we've developed over the years and sort of made work really well for the space, which we'll touch upon in a second. Hopefully we've got time for that. But yeah, if it, that how long it takes is kind of depending on the use case for it, really. And then, yeah, if you wanted to, another question we sometimes get is, can I arrange hosting myself? And if that's the preference internally, if you prefer to manage that internally and you're sort of happy with looking after that contract, or if it's a server that's already been managed, then yeah, that's totally doable as well. Okay, so in terms of what Prodo can offer from an Umbraco perspective, obviously it's huge, really, in terms of portals and intranets in the past and very, very complex websites. But at the moment, I'm speaking to lots of housing associations who are looking for a new website to be a lot better than what they have at the moment, to make sure the users are secure and the data is secure, sort of optimized towards accelerating channel shift. So either taking people to specific outcomes, so submitting property application or inquiries, or directing people towards your customer portal potentially. So we've kind of taken those problems and those use cases and our experience over the years and put that into a bit of a product offering, really, which is called Cor-de. So we've got the Franklin portals, we've got the Cor-de websites. I'm going to quickly talk to you about Cor-de Go today, which I know Kris knows a little bit more than me about, having had the workshop yesterday. But essentially, Cor-de is the only sort of housing first ACS, which is our accelerated channel shift program optimized website platform, which can be up and running really, really quickly, but it's totally optimized for the use case in the housing space. And there's different sort of package levels that we're putting together based on what you need. If you do need something really quick and easy, this is great. If you want something more bespoke or some custom features, then we can add those in as well. But yeah, there's a few sort of things in here as to why we've done this. And there's a lot of people at the moment I'm speaking to around the website just isn't really working for them, and that the user journeys and sort of the way the content can be presented isn't in a very engaging way. It's not really tailored to your specific audiences, which we can do with this. And also things such as security that we've touched upon quite heavily at the start around WordPress platforms and similar, being quite vulnerable in terms of the data passing through it potentially. So yeah, if it's something that, if you need an optimized website for your housing association, which is geared towards encouraging digital channel shift around sort of reducing call volumes and encouraging those people online to interact with you digitally rather than getting frustrated online, thinking, I can't find what I need, so I'm just going to call you anyway. That's the reason for us doing this. And it's set up in a way that we work with housing associations from very, very small to very large, and there's something for everyone within this package. Is anything you want to add in, Kris, having been through your sort of session yesterday?
Yeah, so the Cor-de offerings, they come in 3 core flavors: Go, Pro, and Custom. Go is the one that's designed to get people in a great place really quick. So we know that there's building websites can often be an expensive and timely process with lots of investments from people to relearn the system and all kinds of stuff. So what we're aiming with the Cor-de Go offering is to get something up and running like as quick as possible based on tried and tested stuff, as Jake said. The Pro offering, we offer more advanced features with that, and more advanced modules. We offer like a complete custom design with that as well, UX, all that kind of stuff. That's the Pro version, sorry. And then the custom version is basically we use the core platform and go, right, we've got loads of experience in building housing websites. Tell us what you need and what your specs are, what your unique requirements are, and then we'll tailor that for you. Now, the way this platform's being designed is that if you get on the go kind of tier, you're not tied into that. There is migration and upgrade paths between all the ones, so you can start on go. After a year or two of uptake, when you've started, your challenge shift is well in flow, and we've got loads of take on the website, loads of interaction with it. You can then start to move to the Pro and introduce more advanced modules, and then you could come to us and 6 months later and go, right, we've got this really unique system that we need to integrate with. It's really integral to our business. Can you integrate our website with that? And then that's where the kind of custom version comes, and we can kind of take you on that journey with that kind of like set of offerings kind of thing. So the go is like the introductory level to get you up and running, and then as time goes on, you can mutate and go between the higher tiers if the business requires it. I mean, with the research and knowledge we've got in this sector, we've found that the go offer is probably going to fit a lot of organizations and their requirements, and they all have no requirement to go any further than that. But we want to make sure, and we want to make it really clear that if the business changes or grows as in any way, shape, or form, then this platform can accommodate for that as well. So
it feeds back into that scalability and flexibility we said at the start, doesn't it, I suppose? Yeah. Is anyone? Go on, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back to that kind of Umbraco as a great choice for us. The flexibility of the platform. It makes it easier to build a product on top of Umbraco or a system like Umbraco, because of its flexibility. But obviously, as any organization needs to save time and money in development as well, obviously we need to do the same and get as efficient with our builds as possible. And that's where Umbraco is kind of tied in and made this a lot more of an easy achievement for us to build that we can offer. So.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks, mate. So yeah, I know we've just about run over, but has anyone got any questions you wanted to pop over to myself or Kris, or if you need to run off, because we did have 45 in the diary, and feel free to come back to us. More than happy to expand on any of this today. Any questions to throw in at all? No.
Jacob.
Yeah, go on, Barbara.
I just have a comment, having gone through Umbraco from an old 4 system that we had, which you probably remember, to 7. It's really good to see 8 looking as familiar to me as 7 did. Yeah. But just from my perspective, just a comment for Umbraco, I'm absolutely in love with Umbraco, and it's not for no reason. So I've used many CMSs in my time, and I think Umbraco is astonishingly easy to use at the back end for the administrators. Yeah. And we, in our path where we updated, we actually rebuilt the Hanover website and launched in 2018. I remember, because we had so little time, I gave Prodo the top line navigation, and then you delivered the system to us. And in just 2 weeks, because of the search functionality of Umbraco, but just finding the images, finding the pages, duplicating pages, and then populating the content, I remember building out 300 pages in just 2 weeks.
Amazing.
That is astonishing to me as a CMS. It is literally the best one I have ever worked with. And whenever I think about a CMS, I always kind of think that's my favorite one. Yeah. And I had a team of temps who had never used a CMS before. In one session, I trained them in the basics, and they just fell in love with it, and they were just off, and they just did all the content population for me as well. So that was my journey with Umbraco, and it's why even today I'm not using Umbraco currently, but any time I'm in an organization, I always think, oh, this would be so much easier if if they were using Umbraco. I think it's astonishing at the back end, so easy to use. So that's my I'm not getting a commission, obviously.
I was going to say, you can come again, Barbara, but I promise we're not paying or anything.
No, I just love it, and I've used so many clunky CMSs that I just think it is really an amazing system to use. It just makes everything easier, and you can say, well, is it letting your customers down? But also a CMS can let the administrators down as well if it's really difficult to use. So absolutely, that's my little comment.
That's a great story. Thank you for that, Barbara. Yeah, that's a project we remember well, the Hanover one. So thank you for that. Yeah, if anyone wants to ask any more details about that project or any others that we've run, or ask information on Umbraco or how we can approach these, then yeah, feel free to get in touch. Yeah, I think that's I think that'll be it. If no one's got any questions at all for anyone before we go. We have the next session on the 28th of Jan, which I think we're working on the topic for at the moment, Meg, aren't we?
Yeah, February, not Jan. We're not going back in time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I put
like
Jan on the slide as well. It feels like it should be. But yeah, a couple of weeks, and we'll obviously put some communications and messaging out as to what that's going to be. So look out for that one. Hopefully some of you will come back and join us in that one as well. But no, thanks everyone for your time today, and thanks for joining us as well, Kris, and giving your technical spin on this as well. Really appreciate it. But no, if there's no questions or anything at all, everyone have a great day, and thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, have a great day.